Today we came to Lattice Center up here in Sheffield. Louie and I just finished all the assessments and all the testing, so I thought I'd take advantage of this time and talk to Ollie and Tom about progressing as a climber. You just put me through the ringer, and I think a lot of people watching are really interested about knowing more about how they can progress as climbers as well. I'm on this quest for the next 6 months to try and get better myself, and I think a lot of people out there want the same thing. So just to kind of get things started, what do you find is the perceived limiting factor? When people come to you, what do they often say, I think this is the biggest weakness for me? And are they often right, or do you think they're often off?
Oh, it's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question, and probably the first answer would be is the perceived limiting factors across the board for climbers that we talk to is really broad ranging. There are so many different things that people come across, but I would say you could more or less put things into brackets of typical limitations in people's climbing abilities or achieving their goals based on climbing years and experience. I'd say roughly you can do that, can't you?
Yeah, and I think there's probably a little bit of, you can probably predict stereotyping a little bit as well, so gender and location is another thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. In terms of probably most common sort of gender-specific kind of perceived weaknesses.
Yeah.
A lot of female climbers will instantly say power and shoulder strength, regardless of whether that is a weakness or not.
Yeah.
And is that what you would agree as well?
Yeah.
And then for guys, I would say it's very easy to get to finger strength all the time. Regardless of if they're miles over performing or underperforming, they'll always consider that as a main issue. And I think
I'm firsthand, so I thought that would be my biggest limiting factor, but clearly today I found out that it was body movement and technique, which I guess I was completely wrong, but it was completely reversed. So I imagine a lot of people are like that.
I think that's why we originally started doing all this testing as like a big holistic package, because being able to tell you today that your fingers are already overperforming compared to a grade, it doesn't mean you should stop training them to get better, because we know you want to try and improve as much as possible, but it means that the priority of time and the percentage of time fingerboarding should now be dropped compared to what you might have done before.
Okay, this leads me good into the next question. What do you think is the biggest mistake that climbers are doing right now that's actually hurting their progress?
Ooh.
Number one for me would be focusing in the wrong area or not focusing at all.
Okay, so they're scattered, they get to the gym, maybe they get distracted by new sets, so they're not focusing in on their weaknesses, or
it can be that, yeah, definitely. So people can go to the gym and do really they just climb around randomly, which has a value and it is okay, but I would say it's more on the perspective is that climbers tend to be quite analytical, and so they spin around in their head all these different areas of their performance, mental, physical, technical, tactics, and they just keep going round and round and round, asking lots and lots of questions until eventually they never focus on anything because they can't stop asking a million questions. And that's what me and Ollie really enjoying doing as a coach, is to say, okay, there's all these different facets, but this thing here and this thing here, that should be a focus. I know there's loads of things we could work on, but we've got to concentrate on one area or two areas.
Does that make sports-specific or climbing-specific training so important? So
I think if you look at it on the other end of the spectrum, if you're kind of not looking in one area at all or trying to focus, the people that are doing really well are the ones that are doing that but consistently. So it kind of doesn't matter what area you choose, or if you're looking for goals in all areas, but you're being consistent about your focus as a whole.
Right.
And that consistency over years is what makes the really good climbers. So yes, it could be very sport specific towards climbing, but if you want to improve your arm strength and you think it'll help climbing, just being consistent and pushing towards that and focusing on that one area over a long period of time, that's the thing that we don't see happening.
Okay, I got another question here. At what grade do you think climbing just isn't enough for progress. So I think a really good, or someone that I looked at was Chris Sharma, who like infamously just climbed at the gym for a long time, got super strong doing that. At least in interviews, he'd say, oh, I just want to boulder today, I just want to sport climb today, and he got super strong. And at what point do you see that sports, like specific training is pivotal to get to this next grade?
I would think that pretty much anyone could get to the top grades only climbing. The difference is they would have to be able to climb all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have to have a job, have to worry about family or anything else like that. They would be able to just climb. And then they would need to know what type of climbing to do all the time, to be able to mix up going from flying from Oleana to do their base endurance stuff, then go straight to somewhere to do really hard bouldering on another day of the week. And so climbing can achieve it because you can get all the stimulus you need, and you might just need to be able to do a little bit of other work to compensate, so some antagonist stuff, but you could still do that in Fontainebleau doing mantles.
Yeah.
However, the likelihood of that is pretty slim.
Right. You
So-
kind of have to be a sponsored climber, paid to go climb all the time.
And be a sponsored climber that actually earns a lot of money.
Right, because there's not a lot of those out there, we know that.
Yeah, so I think you can get to the top level by just climbing if you've got the opportunity.
Yeah.
But the reason why we help so many people in training, we advise doing training, is because most people don't have that opportunity, the locality,
Right.
and they need the motivation of other people to be around as well.
Right, yeah.
So I
So
think
you can do it, but being more aware of what you're working on and being more focused in your training will help you get there quicker or more efficiently at least.
yeah. So it's a mix of both. If you need to be time efficient,
Yeah.
and you've not got much time at the gym, training works 100%. It will get you there quicker than just climbing and not doing anything structured. If you've got more time, then you can add in more free climbing and more enjoyment stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's just focusing on freestyling. And I think the further up you go, the more time you can spend climbing. But to get to the top levels, you still need to structure even your climbing to hit different stimulus.
I think another really important nuance to this, because like Ollie, I agree that you can get right up to the top levels by just going climbing, but there's a really important subtle thing to do with this, and it's that if you look at the top performers who have got there through, just going climbing lots, going outside those, and they say they've never touched a campus board or haven't done any fingerboarding or got a stopwatch out, if you look at the practice and the things that they've done in their climbing habits, they always have a very, very high quality. And what I mean by quality is that when they're doing their session, they're accessing that last 1, 2, 3% in terms of either strength or power endurance or aerobic capacity, and they have a really good intuition for doing that. So I've really noticed this over the years of talking to these climbers. I always go, why is it they seem naturally so good?
Yeah.
But if you then, dive in and ask them detailed questions about, like, how do you do it? What do you do?
Yeah.
And it turns out, like, lots of coaches say about this purposeful practice,
Right, yeah.
high quality sessions.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's kind of what you do through training as well, is you have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You try and assign a certain quality, whether
Yeah.
it's reps, sets, intensity. And so the reality is that you can do it through training,
Yeah.
you could do it just through climbing, but it's all about that quality that goes in, because then we get the body to adapt.
Okay, so this leads me into another one. How important is goal setting for you or your clients? If someone was to say, I want to get better, but it's kind of vague, they just want to get better, do those people often fare worse than others who say, I want to do, I don't know, Cobra Crack, and they attack it and they go for it? How has goal setting impacted you guys and then your clients essentially?
I think goal setting, from my perspective as a coach and as a climber, is so crucial to making the big gains. And I think you don't need to have really finite goals to make steady progress. I think as long as you set yourself little goals all the time, you can still work your way up. If you're trying to push yourself and make the most out of yourself, the more specific you can go, the better. Because if you can sort of decide exactly what you want to do, and you can sort of let that idea build up over time, and you want to do that, so you can actually attack it with full commitment.
Yeah.
And then each time that, like Tom was saying, you're having a purposeful practice or working out, you're going to access that last 5% so much easier because you're thinking about the goal.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking every session, I just want to be better, I just want to be better, it's really hard for you to really dig deep all the time, week after week, month after month.
Yeah.
If you know, okay, I'm going away next year, I'm going to climb Cobra Crack, like you said, that's when you're going to go, okay, I need to be able to do this. Cobra Crack's this hard, I need to push that hard. And I think you've found this, haven't you, over the years with the way you've done it. And myself and the climbers I've worked with, those that are more specific make the bigger gains, but you can still progress if you don't have those goals in mind at the moment.
Yeah, and it fits in. You've got to fit it with personality type as well. And
right.
Some people are big dreamers. Others are very process driven.
Yeah.
Others love the detail. Others love the big picture.
Yeah.
And it's making sure that those goals fit with that. And I've definitely seen over the years that you've got to match the two together, the individual
mm-hmm.
and the style of processing and working towards goals.
Right.
Get a mismatch, and there can be problems. And we've both learned the hard way.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to ask you if there was a recipe for getting stronger or getting better as a climber, but it sounds like every climber is so unique. Every climber has their own weaknesses, their own strengths, their own mindset, their own way of training or being coached, being pushed in certain ways. So there's no one size fits all. So you can assess someone in a kind of one size fits all training test or something like that.
Yeah.
But what you take from that has to go a bit deeper, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So our main role is writing training plans and doing the physical training, but we try to talk to our athletes as much as possible. Everyone we start with, we say there's going to be teething issues because we get all this testing data. It's very individualized to them. We marry it up with all of their history,
mm-hmm.
so we learn as much about them as we can. And then we start working together, and 9 times out of 10 we need to make edits. We need to change things up because one thing, an 8A climber who wants to climb 8A plus might have someone else who's exactly the same grade, has exactly the same goal, and they start adapting slightly different, or they enjoy it slightly different, or their facilities are different. So in the first couple of months of working with people, we always start trying to talk as much as we can with them,
mm-hmm.
and then you start to work out what works for them. So if I'm the coach that's nagging them all the time, is that good?
Yeah.
If I'm the coach that lets them just chill out and they can go off and they can manage themselves, that's great. Do I just give them a quick positive feedback on social media?
Yeah.
Or would they prefer not to be mentioned at all and they want it to be discreet that they're training?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's different, and I think a coach's role is trying to guess that as fast as possible and optimize the training for them and their own mindset as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Now you guys must have a lot of data points from a lot of different climbers. How do you see these climbers on, let's say, a graph? Like do you have a percentage of like grade climbers? Obviously most people that come to you guys would be somewhat experienced, so you're going to get some limited data sets, but what's the percentage of climbers who are, let's say, V13 up or something like that? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, it's going to always operate in exactly the same way as a general
curves.
bell curve of the climbing population. So and we have some skewing just down to the fact that when people come and work with us, they're typically climbers that are climbing a V5 or French 6B plus 6C and above. Yeah. And we don't get very many people coming and asking us to do a detailed analysis on their climbing and training at V2, for example. Yeah. But the curve and the distribution of data and people that we assess is always going to be the biggest in your V7, V8, V9, really popular grade where people start to do a lot of training really. Yeah. And likewise from 7B plus and upwards. Yeah. And then as soon as you get up into 8C, 8C plus, 9A, V13, 14, 15, yeah, it's just a limited pool of people. And whilst we have tested lots of people in that grade range compared to anyone else, yeah, compared to the bigger data set, of course it's much smaller.
So what are we talking, like 1%, 0.5%, or?
If you take like V13, for example, it's going to be 1%.
Sure. 1%?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Take V14, probably another 1%.
Do you know what? One thing that I would say is slightly skewed.
Yeah.
Is from our previous, and it is changing now. Female climbers definitely that we've been able to work with.
Yeah.
Tend to be higher performers, because what we've found in the past, a lot of female climbers, when they decide to train, they have already thought about it a lot. They've made the decision. They do it really well, and they stick with it so well. Like, absolute pleasure to work with.
Yeah.
Whilst you get a lot more, I think it's a lot easier, or has been culturally, for a lot of male climbers to engage with coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they tend to sort of jump in 2 feet at the deep end without, more contemplation about what they want to do.
Right.
So a lot of the female climbers, we've seen that compared to the normal population, they've probably been higher performers.
Okay.
Luckily, that's started to change a little bit, and we're seeing a much bigger spread of athletes.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's one thing that we do. We probably have a higher percentage compared to, most climbing. If you go down the climbing wall, what grades people are climbing?
Interesting. So, okay, I got a question about progress. What is, this is anecdotal, but what is the fastest progression you've ever seen? Is there someone that comes to mind that you're like, oh my God, like last year they were climbing V3 and now they're a V11 climber or something? Who's that outlier, if you have one in mind?
It starts to get, dare I say it, a little bit difficult to remember exact examples, because when you see a lot of clients, I hate to say it, I end up almost like forgetting the names or exactly the people, but...
Is there numbers that jump out to you?
It definitely stands out that if I have a client who I take on board and they're red pointing 7B at the beginning of the year, if they progress to 7B plus or 7C, I'll go, great. This is the kind of progress that I'm really happy with.
Yeah.
I may well expect it if they have good adherence to the training program and they're consistent and they don't get injured.
Yeah.
When they go from 7B to 7C plus, I go, crikey, that's a really big improvement.
Yeah.
7B to 8A, I think I've maybe seen it once or twice, maybe in 10 years of climbing coaching.
What's the time factor for this?
And that'd be like across a year.
A year.
A year of progress.
I think this is also looking consistently performing, isn't it? So I've worked with people that have gone up a V grade a month for like around 4 months.
Wow, yeah.
But I would never say that we were the complete factor that's produced that.
Yeah.
They had a lot of potential beforehand.
Right.
We just advised that they had a change of lifestyle anyway. There was more opportunity for them to perform.
Yeah.
The little bit of training helped, the support helped, and directing them in the right areas.
Yeah.
But people that are accelerating at speed, it tends to either slow down pretty quick anyway. And I think the biggest issue with progressing really fast, and probably something that you'll have to think about.
Is it injury?
No, it's actually once you. Say you've climbed 1V7 at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Say in the next 6 months you climb a V10,
yeah.
which is absolutely fantastic, amazing progress on that. From then onwards, you're going to measure your performance against the V10.
Right.
And even though you've only climbed like a few of these grades or one of these grades, everything's going to stack up to this V10.
Sure.
So your motivation factors on V8, V9 are going to change slightly over the years.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big issues I see with people that progress super quick and do a couple of the top grades, is everything becomes a measurement of that ceiling.
Sure. Something like, now I'm a V10 climber. Nothing else is good enough. Where they could be improving, maybe I should work on flashing every V7 I get to, or being super consistent with V8s and 9s.
Yeah.
And then aim for a little bit higher as you go.
Yeah, and you see it with a lot of people that red point outside a lot, and they just work their way up the grades really quick. And I've been guilty of this in the past, having climbed only a few of my top grades in the disciplines.
Yeah.
And then it's making sure that you're working on that pyramid. So if you do kind of spike up really quick and get that top grade up higher, is then you need to go, okay, next year, so I've got my grade up, next year I'm going to bring the pyramid out.
I like that.
And you might go up again, bring the pyramid out.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really healthy way of doing it. If you constantly go, well, I've climbed a V10 now, I might try V11, but I want to get more V10s done. Mm-hmm. It's going to be quite hard work mentally to stay psyched and enjoy it.
Yeah. How important are climbing partners for your success or in the success of your clients? Because I know some people train individually at home, you just don't have time. But have you seen a correlation between the people you climb with and the success rate of people?
I mean, for me personally, I've seen a lot of success with climbing with Pete as my main training climbing partner.
Yeah.
And it's not 100% based on the fact that he's just there in sessions when we're training together. And that's really useful for motivation and, you know, sharing psych and energy and all those sort of things in sessions and giving feedback. I'd say it's more down to the fact that we're both really into learning and progressing and analysing stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of processing and improvement that goes on kind of like on a micro scale within sessions. And that's where we kind of feed off each other and discuss stuff and change stuff up. And that's been a lot of the value that I've got out of that partnership with Pete. And I always kind of, when I talk to clients about this, about who would they train with and who they climb with, I try and encourage them towards other people that they're going to basically learn something from.
Sure.
And sometimes you just absorb by osmosis, you know, almost just climb next to them on a regular basis. You don't even ask them anything, but if you see someone regularly using...
Just creepily climb. Oh, you're at the gym again. How about that? Me too. I'm just going to climb right next to you.
Exactly. You just hang out with it. And I've definitely seen that pattern where you have a group of, let's say, 4v11 climbers, and for whatever reason, a V5 climber just gets in with that group and they start hanging out and climbing together.
Yeah.
I've never seen such fast progression with that V5 climber all the way up to match the group.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes they don't reach that V11.
Yeah.
But my goodness, they go up the grades fast.
Wow. I wonder if watching a YouTube channel could actually do that as well. If you watch Louis climb, get some technique from that.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'd always say is like in terms of the day-to-day training, it's about like the general sort of influences, like you're saying about being around that. I think there's because everyone wants to have a training partner, they want to have the same person there.
Yeah.
I don't think necessarily you need like the same person there all the time and constantly training with them.
Yeah.
You need them there for the big moments. You need to know what, you know, they're up to. So good things like, you know, people look at Strava all the time, or each other's crimped app, and they can see what the other person's up to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh, they're training really hard, I'm going to go and get on with it now. And that kind of works as well. But like you say, that osmosis thing has just been seen again and again in all sports.
Yeah. Amazing. Big question. Should climbers skip leg day?
Depends what you wanna
It's
do.
a burning question.
Climbers. I was looking at Louis' legs earlier on.
They're really small, aren't they?
And I was thinking,
They're quite strong.
he's the only other guy who's got really quite skinny legs like me as well. But he seems to jump really well.
How does he do it? Grasshopper.
Yeah, my suspicion is that, like a lot of things in climbing, is that you may not have the physical attributes of another person next to you who has bigger legs or smaller legs, but how you use those structures that you have, the efficiency with which you use them, will often be the determining factor. So Louis might not have gigantic, powerful, piston neat legs on him that he can just explode off stuff, but guess what? He uses his momentum really well. He throws himself around the wall really effectively.
Yeah.
In contrast, I also have relatively small legs, but I do a lot of trad climbing, standing around jamming my feet in the cracks, and I hardly ever jump off anything.
Yeah.
Guess what? I am awful at dynamic movements because I haven't spent 10,
Because you're
15...
wedging your feet in things. You don't want them to be.
Yeah,
I guess
exactly.
You're never doing
so
that.
So I have that physical attribute, but I haven't really learned to use that to the best of its capacity because I haven't practiced and done it again and again and again. So, yeah, there's some physiology.
Yeah.
There's a lot of application of technique and practice.
Yeah.
And like you were saying about the power aspect of your legs, you can train strength and power and not put on much muscle. Everyone always worries that they're going to get really big legs if they do train it.
Yeah.
Just look at the amount of the volume that you do and the type of exercises, look at plyometrics. You can do it and have limited muscle gains. If it was really easy to put muscle on, then everyone in the gym would be absolutely massive. You have all these blokes all over the world trying to get really big, and they're all struggling to do it because it's not that easy to put muscle on unless you're doing exactly the right things.
Yeah, and we have lots of training sessions within the things that we work with people that are, you know, essentially lower limb work, and all the people we work with, they have massive legs and they're really heavy, and they have issues with dragging these gigantic cyclist legs around. No, it's useful application of what you have.
I would say if you already have quite big legs,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people have asked me this, and I've got quite big legs from gymnastics background in my quads. If you already have big legs, main things to work on is making sure that they are, if you're a boulderer, is making sure they're powerful. Because it's great to have a lot of muscle there, but unless it's powerful, you'll end up kind of like quite static. And flexibility. More muscle usually results in lack of mobility. So maybe don't do as much leg days, but spend more time stretching.
Okay.
If you've got no muscle at all and you find it hard to put on, there's absolutely no reason not to do leg day, and it would actually help if you learn to use it like Tom said.
There it is. Don't skip leg day. Work on the legs, work on your mobility, and work on your flexibility. Ollie, I don't know if you solo, but I found out that you do quite a lot of soloing, and actually learned that you might have a record for most solos in a day. Is that true?
Yeah, it is actually, yeah.
Which is strange, because when I know of Tom, I think of like cracks and like crazy trad stuff. But how do you guys manage fear when you're like pushing through something, whether it's a solo climb? Maybe you're not pushing the limits when you're doing solos, but in climbs in general, because I know some people out there, they try and work on managing their fear. And I imagine you guys put yourself in precarious positions sometimes. So how's that mental game come in?
I think for me the mental game is an important one, and the baseline for the kind of level of confidence or control of fear that I have is relatively normal, I would say, relative to the population. And most people out there, you'll go, there's no way, we just don't believe you, Tom.
Yeah.
But seriously, I really don't like heights. I'm a big hater of like exposure. It just freaks me out.
Yeah.
But what I've learned over the years is that if I slowly immerse myself into things and I just dip my toe in, do it step by step. So if I'm going to do a stage of soloing through the year, and I don't do it all year long, but I have kind of seasons that I'll do quite a bit of it, is initially I'll just go out and solo really easy, really short routes.
Yeah.
And half the time I might even back off stuff and I just down climb again.
Yeah.
And I don't, tell myself off and say that's not excusable. And then I'll go out again and repeat it. And over a period of a few weeks, I'll notice that actually I'm becoming a little bit more confident, I'm becoming adjusted to it.
Right.
So then what I don't do, that I think some people do is they stop there and say, that's okay, that's enough for me. I push the margins.
Yeah.
And I go back into that very slightly uncomfortable zone and keep doing that repeatedly, so that over a period of months,
Yeah.
I actually do some relatively hard soloing or relatively big stuff with bigger consequences.
What's hard soloing?
Hard soloing, I'd say, is where you're reaching French 7A or above, or E5 and above. That's relatively hard soloing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've done quite a bit of soloing and climbed on some quite scary faces, like big walls, sort of like the Eiger, and done loads and loads of multi-pitching over the years and harder trad. But most people are always probably quite surprised to hear that I get really scared sport climbing.
I'm not surprised, because any human would get scared, right?
And I think, that's the thing, it's totally normal. And even though having done all these things over the years and been scared doing them, and it's taken a lot of effort for me to do them, it doesn't come naturally for me at all.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my climbing partner will probably back me up on that one.
I've been a gym, and I can attest that we both know that each other gets scared.
Yeah, but being above the bolt for me, it's at the start of the season. If I've not been on a rope regularly and falling off, I'm so tense. And I say this a lot to my athletes and clients, that personally I feel like if you're really scared above a bolt or above gear, it knocks off a number grade. So if you could climb 7A, you'll be climbing 6A. Just because the amount of extra force and lack of focus that you can put into it.
Yeah.
And I found this over the years for myself. So for me, if I'm starting anything, or each season, I climb a lot in the spring and the autumn. In January, February, I'll be going to the wall at least once a week, falling off as much as I can, gradually building up. And I've done that for years and years and years now. And it doesn't matter if I fall loads in autumn, I'm doing trad climbing, I'm doing big whippers on red point.
Yeah.
Next spring, I need to practice falling again, because I'll just be tense.
Right.
And I have to do it every year. I've kind of accepted it. It's just the way it is for me.
Yeah.
And if I work on that, then I'm okay. If I ignore it, then I'm not.
So it sounds like you're both purposefully putting yourselves in uncomfortable positions, despite the fact, you know, I'm going to be scared. I'm not going to like this, but you push through because
In training.
why?
In training. So we want to accomplish certain things in practice.
Yeah.
So being on big walls, being on scary leads, doing solos at the top end, we want to get there.
Yeah.
So you push yourself in practice, in training. It's like your physical ability. Like if you want to be able to do a hard move on a small edge, you don't just keep going up to the small edge and expecting to be able to do it and be able to do it comfortably. You need to go into training and make yourself feel a bit uncomfortable on a slightly bigger edge and build it down, down, down.
Yeah. Okay, last thing before I let you guys go, what's your one favorite tip to give people trying to progress in their climbing? If you had to have one favorite one right now, what would you say that is?
For me, it would be all about consistency. Anything that you're trying to achieve, whether it's to do with your finger strength, your fitness, or how you deal with falling off, if you're going to make some kind of change to it and you want to progress, you've got to be very consistent. So many people get motivated to try something for a month and then they just stop because they made some small improvements. But if you really want to tackle it and make big changes, consistency is king. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, really stick at it.
Attrition, I love it. And for you?
I think for probably the audience that you've got watching, I think try and choose one thing to begin with. And like Tom says, be consistent, but in that one area, set yourself a little bit of a goal and then try and progress it each week. So force yourself to push it each week. So that could be, if you're trying to do pull-ups, everyone wants to try and get stronger at pull-ups. They come up to us and say, how do we get stronger arms? And then you say, well, I've been training pull-ups. But if you start at body weight, the next week add half a kilo. The next week add a kilo. The next week add 2 kilos. And try and actually force yourself to do a progression. If you're trying to become better in movement, it's try and climb a certain amount of boulders and film yourself doing it, and for the analysis, start doing 2 boulders 1 week, then do 3 boulders the next week, then do 4 boulders. Like it's very easy to say, oh yeah, but I'm doing it. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but they don't push the margin, they don't force the overload. And it's all about overload if you're trying to progress.
Get yourself in those uncomfortable positions. Okay, great. Guys, this was great. Thanks for this. Thanks for the Q&A. If you want to check them out, it's Lattice and Crimped app. You can go on your phone right now. You're at the gym, you're wherever. Just go on your phone, download the Crimped app, and it'll help you guide through your training sessions, and you can log stuff and become a better climber. So, guys, thank you, Tom, Ollie. This was great. And I guess I'll see you in a few months.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah,
hopefully
good luck.
So.
Some good skills.
We'll have to come back and do this again. But thanks. And like and subscribe, and let me know if you enjoyed this. You must have. And I'll see you next one. Bye.